Welcome back to the Maxim Cricket Podcast. My name is Munter. This is episode number 67. We have Lugsy, we have Jacko with us, and this is a huge show on the cards. Australia and England flex their muscles against second-tier nations, New Zealand and South Africa. New Zealand fight back. South Africa, they roll over. India versus Pakistan gets washed out, but not before the Pakistan seamers send a very real message to the Indian top order. We have that, some more Asia Cup, and so much more. But first, Lugsy, a little from our sponsors today. We had Coke last week. I believe we lost them after a week. But who's rolling with TMC this week?
Yeah. Well, yeah, unfortunately, the three of us demanded a bit too much product from Coke, and they weren't willing to meet our demand. So 1 week in, much like CM Punk, we've been terminated. The contract's gone, but we move over. So, I mean, I don't know about you boys, but when I was 18, it only took sort of a Stephen Fleming cover drive or a Shane Bon Yorker, and I was hard as a rock, you know. But it's getting it's not as easy these days. We're a bit older, and that's where a product like Blue Chew comes in, our latest sponsor. Blue Chew, very similar to Viagra, but in chewable form. So it works a lot more effectively. So, you know, for us guys, that'll really put some lead in the pencil. I know, you know, you're a father now, Matt. Obviously still doing the job a bit there, but not easy for guys like myself. So great to have Blue Chew on board. They'll get you rock hard like it's your prime. And if you could use we've got a code Silver Bulls. That'll actually get you your first lot free. Just pay shipping and handling. I think that's about $5.99. But great opportunity to get the product on board. So great to have them.
Yeah, brilliant. Because it's been the non-chewableness of Viagra that's really been holding me back, actually. So.
Yes, I knew you had a bit of experience with Viagra, Jacko. So yeah, this will be wonders. This will do wonders for you, mate.
I had a plan to add to this conversation, but I'm really struggling to hold it together here. That was brilliant. Like, it really was. I hope the sponsors.
No, they're a good product. They'll be happy.
Brilliant. Okay, right. But a gurk. New Zealand versus England T20 Series, which is currently 2-1. But for most of the series, it's been all England. First T20, things started great for New Zealand. Finn Allen, 3 sixes in the first over, but it was all downhill after that. New Zealand lost regular wickets to limp through to 139 off their 20. Glenn Phillips top scoring with 41 off 38. England mowed it down in 14 overs. And Milan, Harry Brook making almost 100 of those runs between them. Second T20, England batted first. New Zealand started well again, 242 inside 7 overs. Bairstow, Harry Brook, they put on 130 odd inside of 11 overs. Powered England to 198 off their 20. In reply, New Zealand needed a good start. They did not get that. Lost both openers inside 3 overs. Fell in a heap, all out 103. And it was at this point where I started to prepare tonight's podcast, and it was going to be what the fuck is wrong with New Zealand, but they turned it around. Third T20, batting first, they compiled 202 for 5, man of the match Finn Allen, 83 off 53, Glenn Phillips exclamation mark on the innings with a fine 69 off just 34 rocks. With the ball, they were just as good. England all out 128. All the bowlers chipped in. Sodhi, Jameson, they took 3 poles each. Hard to read into a T20 series, but white ball cricket this close to a World Cup has got to mean something. It's not all doom and gloom like we thought after that third T20. Still a few question marks they need to answer before the World Cup. But Jacko, what do you take away from a New Zealand perspective from those first 3 games?
I mean, let's look at this how the English like to look at games, and let's talk moral victories. Finn Allen 3 sixes in the first over. That's a win. So the series is 1-0 going into game 2. Not a lot to take out of game. game two. So we'll call that 1-1, and then we've won the third. So I think it's 2-1 us.
Well, we won that
By
third
my,
game
by,
so well. It should be
yeah,
like a 1.5. Are we? So
yeah. So
we're sort of in the lead.
it's two and a half, 2.5-1 to us morally. So I'm pretty happy with where we're at. But yeah, I mean, on a serious note, I think Kyle getting some game time, playing well is key, and I think Finn finding some form is huge. And I know we spoke probably 2 weeks ago about some questions around who's going to open with Conway at the World Cup, and I think some form runs a run. So yeah, Finn getting into form at the right time sort of answers some of those questions we had.
Yeah, well, it was as you say, wasn't shaping up too nicely after two games. It is always hard to get a read on these games because I'm watching some highlights today and sort of yesterday, and it's like some balls in T20, like the margin for error is so small. It's like it feels like you see the exact same ball and one over it's six and the next it's called on the boundary. And if you get a game like so often can happen, especially with the power in some of these sides, like when all of those balls happen to go for six and then the team scores 200 and then couple of loose shots early and you roll for 80 and it looks really ugly, but it can turn around quite quickly. Um, Finn Allen's a very interesting case because obviously we love talking about him and we will continue to, but it almost feels I don't know quite how to say this without sort of feeling like I'm putting him down a touch, which I'm not meaning to do because he's a starter. We feel a wee bit too reliant on him for how early he is into his career. Like it really feels like our innings is hedge on him getting off to a rocking start. And it feels like it's a bit too soon for us to be too heavy on him, but great, yeah, great to see him get 80 today. Phillips, I think's turning into really one of our better players and one of our key players as well. So, yeah, it'd be good to see another good performance next game. And then I think if we can get two all the way, because this is a damn good English side, not a bad series really.
Yeah, I think you boys made some excellent points. I want to touch on something you said, Lugsy around Finn, because I think it was excellent around we relied too much on Finn Allen, considering his style of play, what sort of got him into the setup, and also his age, like you said. And I think I was listening to a podcast, I think it was Jared Kimber, and he was talking about the series, and he suggested that Finn Allen would look a lot better if he was in the England team, where he was surrounded by other guys doing the same thing, and they've got batting depth all the way down. We're sort of asking him to play sort of reckless cricket with a batting lineup that ends at 6. We've got Santner at 7. So I think Michael Brace was just a massive loss. And I touched on this on Friday, but it's definitely a hole that's sort of fillable at this rate. But I think for me, what really excited me most about Finn's innings is he played a different sort of tempo that he normally plays at. Like he ends up at 83 or 50 odd, but he sort of eased his way into that. Particularly when like Conway goes early. I don't think Seifert made too many. So they're two down for not many. So for him to sort of get us out of a bit of a hole and then into a really strong position sort of shows that's how good he can be when he gets it going.
Yeah. It was it was it was quite similar to the innings Bairstow played, where he had sort of Brook with him as well. Because Bairstow wasn't actually his innings obviously ended up like 90 or 50 or 60 or something crazy. But until he was about like 35, he was only run a ball, and Brook came out, took a bit of pressure on him, and then they just both went together. That point you make about our sort of batting depth. It's something you notice when I'm watching like Aussie play and watching England play. It's just like we are probably lacking just a bit of power. Like they just seem to have so many guys that they can like get 25 off 10 from, where we seem to just at the moment still have probably, rely on a couple of guys to do that and everyone else is still batting around them a bit. And it just feels like the way the game's heading, it's like you need at least 4 or 5 of those guys.
Yeah, it feels a wee bit like Finn's our floor ceiling, isn't it? It's like if he comes off, we can score 200. If he doesn't, we're going to have to defend 160. Like it sort of doesn't feel like we've got
Yeah,
anyone
and
else
that
that's going to drag us to 200, or like not drag us, but like go out and whack it and get us to 200, which is quite a lot to put on Finn. I mean, he's been around a lot of good players and a lot of cricket setups now with his the franchise cricket he's playing. So I think he'll be sort of experienced beyond his years in that respect. But yeah, a lot is hinging on him in T20 cricket for us to score 200.
What about England, guys? Because obviously they were unbelievable in those first two games. Um,
Yeah,
I think the big differences for me between the two sides is just how versatile the side is. Like New Zealand kind of has sort of one version. They sort of a lot of the times they have five bowlers bowling, 4 overs apiece. They're relying on that top order to make runs, whereas England, they've got. I mean, Livingston was batting at 7 in the latest game, hasn't made many runs, and they sometimes they can bowl 7 bowlers at once. They've just got so many different options. Like Livingston could be 2 bowlers, bowling leg spin, bit of off spin. They're looking pretty strong for this World Cup, when you say.
yeah, very strong. And I think England have just been a great one day side for a while, and they're starting to show that. And I think as you said, that versatility is there. They bat 1 to 8 or 9 potentially, and it's as we said that those guys 1 to 7 can all score it. They can get 40 off 20, or they can get 30 off 30 if it's needed. So that every guy's got the gears, which really helps. So yeah, I mean they've been the sort of cream of the crop in white ball cricket for a while, and they're trending very well for this World Cup.
I was super impressed with them the first two games, especially. Obviously, I mean, as I say, any 2020 can get away on you. You can lose one, but just yeah, as you actually mentioned, I was like, yeah, all of their guys are just plug them in and they'll do a role. Like this was probably not full strength bowling attack, and they've made a few changes even within their series, and everyone just comes in and does their role. Like they all can do a bit of everything. They've got a couple of real world class players. It's right across their T20, ODI, and Test. It's like they've got a couple of world class players that they can rely on. And then they've got the guys that just next tier down that can just hit a hard ball and contribute and play a role. So they're so well balanced, I feel, especially in T20s and ODIs now. I think they're tracking well. And obviously, as you mentioned there, Harry Brook, just looking dynamite in a couple of innings there and putting the pressure on the selectors, I'd say, still trying to push a case if there's an injury or anything for this ODI.
I did enjoy the irony, because obviously there's been a little bit of public pressure from like a David Milan, who does score a lot of runs, but for whatever reason always seems in the hot seat. Maybe just like doesn't score the runs they would like. But I thought it was interesting that after the first game he made 50 odd. Pretty much said that his position isn't under threat for Harry Brook because he's in the top order. And also said he's not there to please anyone, he's there to make runs. And then the next game he made a duck while Harry Brook made 60 odd. So watch that
And
space.
quite the 60 odd as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
well,
when
that's
Harry Brook
the
gets
thing.
run, it is a tasty set of runs.
100%, 100%. So yeah,
So it's a
watch
weird
this
old sport
space.
where it actually doesn't matter how you go; it matters how you win, getting how you win. Like if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Milan's probably one of the best T20 batters in the world stats wise, but Brooks scores them nice. So well, Milan, your hammy might get tweaked in a couple of weeks.
Look at
That's
Crawley.
sort
Look
of
at
one to
Crawley.
watch for
Has
a bit
test
of
look at his test. How long his test career? He stayed in that team. Like he just because he looked good. He played the part. His leash is a little bit longer.
Yeah.
It's just life.
We might get that, and this is one of the all-time tangents, but we might get a player dropped YouTube vlog here if one of these English players misses out in the World Cup. Happened to the Netherlands player a couple of World Cups ago. I don't know if you guys ever saw this or remember it, but he got dropped from the World Cup squad, injured, and just like released this vlog tearing Cricket Netherlands to pieces, saying like, "I'm not injured.
oh,
I've got
that's
nothing
good.
wrong with me. I've got no scans. Like I'm actually all good. They just want this other guy to play." So,
Okay.
producer Gav, if you could cue that
That's
up and cut it
unreal.
in. But yeah, we could get an English player vlog here
That should
or a
be right
column.
here.
That sounds like an untold Netflix docker and
Yeah,
right
how
there.
good would that be?
What if I told
Oh,
you?
what if I told you I
Um,
wasn't injured for the World Cup?
Okay, right. Should we just touch on New Zealand A since we're talking about New Zealand? Because they got a pretty incredible victory against Australia A in Australia. Not many New Zealand sides taste victory on the other side of the ditch. They lost the toss and they were put in on a pretty green wicket. They crumbled to 147 all out. Australia got to 151 for three until they lost seven for 112. Still a pretty handy lead of 116. Scott Kugelheim, 5 for 74. Sean Solier took 2 for 38. Solier backed up his efforts with the ball, making 91, opening the batting in the third innings. Tom Bruce made 51. 20-year-old wonder kid Muhammad Abbas made 55. And Kugelheim, batting at 8, made 101 not out off just 85 balls to take New Zealand to 468, leaving Australia A 353 to win. Australia A basically rolled over to be all out 124. Kugelheim taking 4 to give himself 9 for the match with his 100. Solier took 315 off 7 to give himself 5 in the match plus 91. Lads, I know this is A cricket and I know Australia A are missing a few in that side because obviously test players are being rested and then you got the T20 series, which we'll touch on. But we've got to be excited about this, surely.
Yeah, there's a bit in it. And I mean, Aussies want to throw grey cricket in your face and tell you how good it is. But I mean, our A side's beating their A side. So, yeah, no, it's good to see. And I mean, there's some players there that you mentioned, like Abbas, who's sort of coming through and it hasn't played a lot, but he's done some really good things in domestic level and he's getting a chance and playing well. So, yeah, a hell of a win. Talking to, some of the guys after day one were pretty down, pretty dark, needed some sort of a big turnaround, but yeah, they got it. So, yeah, friend of the show, Duffy in there as well. So it was good to see them fight and beat Aussie after a disappointing day one, but that happens with the toss sometimes. And yeah, hell of a comeback win and hopefully do the business over the next 4 days and get a series win over there.
Yeah, I think as New Zealand cricket fans, we've got to celebrate any win over an Aussie. But yeah, I do because there is always that sort of thing with cricket that like the first 11s of each team can be quite even, but if you went down the ranks, maybe that's where some of the other sides would fall apart and sort of yeah, England, Aussie, India would really dominate even more. So to get an 18 victory is actually pretty massive for New Zealand, and even have this series happening, I think is great. Obviously, as we talked about Munter, because there's a lot of guys that think it should just be a younger guys tournament. I think Kugelheim stepping up and proving why he's next cab off the ranks there is why you have guys like him still on the side. So yeah, great result for us. We're in a bit of trouble here as we speak, but the boys can fight, so hopefully we fight again.
There's
Yeah,
an
well
interesting
said,
point
well
as well
said,
with
boys.
the like the older group because like you've got to have test ready players that are ready to go and are playing A cricket. So I think like the notion of every player in this team has to be under 25, averaging 35 plus in first class cricket is wrong. You can have guys that are 30, and if they play 2 or 3 good years of black caps cricket, that can be enough if you've got a good side around them. So yeah, I mean, it's good to see the next cab guys performing well, and putting some pressure on the top team as well.
I mean, unless they're going to put an age limit on the New Zealand side, then there's no age limit on the New Zealand A. You just pick your next best side. It's about getting the next 11 as ready for Test cricket as possible, putting the pressure on the number one side, and that's what the side is doing. So, yeah, no, awesome result at the moment. What are they? 151 for 5. So yeah, hopefully they have a good result. T20 series between Australia and South Africa has been completed this morning. Australia, they won incredibly comfortably 3-0 with all 3 matches being hidings. First T20, they batted first. Australia made 226 for 6. Mitchell Marsh, 92 not out of 49. Tim David, 64 off 28. South Africa folded 116 all out as one of the 4 debutants, Tanvir Sangha, took 4 for 31 off 4. In the second T20, Nathan Ellis and Sean Abbott, they took 3 apiece to limit South Africa to 164 off their 20. In reply, Australia, they smashed it inside of 15 overs. Matthew Short, 66 off 30. Mitchell Marsh, 79 not out off 39 rocks. And this morning, South Africa showed a little bit more fight with the bat, making a 190 for 8. Ferreira, Markram, and Hendricks all made quick 40s. Sean Abbott, 4 for 31 off his 4. Again, in reply, Australia absolutely destroyed South Africa's attack, chasing 191 in less than 18 overs. Travis Head, man of the match, 91 off just 48. Josh Inglis made 42 off just 22. And Big Papi Storm finished it off with 37 read off 21 balls. Boys, my brief takeaways from looking at scorecards and watching some highlights. Mitchell Marsh, very, very good. Australian batting lineup is just physically imposing. They are big boys. They hit the big ball a long way. South Africa's bowling attack is awful. 11 runs and over the whole series. Although they have a way better kit than Australia's. That canary yellow is yuck. Thoughts?
Yeah,
3-1.
So Mitch Marsh, just too big, too strong, isn't he? Really, like he is just whacking it. His sort of renaissance over the last 18 months has been like phenomenal, really. So, I'm a day one Mitch Marsh fan. Was a huge fan when he got drafted by the Deccan Chargers straight out of the Under-19 World Cup. Happy to say I've stuck by him ever since. So good to see him go well.
Love Deccan.
Yeah, my Deccan actually won that year too. So good to see him finally get his flowers on the world stage.
Didn't they get done for match fixing?
Yeah, they won that year though.
I
Didn't do a very good job of it then.
Yeah,
imagine that. Yeah, we'll promise we'll win.
It is funny you say, Monty, because about their size, because I know this isn't rugby or anything, but I was just watching them like, holy shit, this is a big, big batting side. And they just look like they're gonna just pound the bowler, and they've just been doing it. Like Matt Shaw and him and and Mitch Marsh batting together, just smoking it. Like not just sixes, just big, friggin' big, powerful sixes. Like and they're sort of the same as England. Like a lot of their guys do like a couple of things. Like a few guys getting a couple overs here, a few overs there, and they just got guys that can do everything. I was apart from that kit, I was particularly impressed with Aussie. They just bring in a different set of guys and they just come in and do the job. Like they just feel like they've got a lot of guys ready to play international cricket at all times at the moment.
Yeah, depth-wise, they've got to be pretty impressed with that. And it's just like they just remind me of, when you're playing like junior cricket and there's these kids that have like sort of man-childs and they've sort of like obviously gone through puberty a lot quicker than others. And they're just dominant because they're way bigger than everyone. Like that's the Australian side. Like it's just one big guy after another coming through. And they just sort of muscle the ball over the boundary. Very, very impressed.
How would you go our T20 kit versus theirs? Because this is going to be a potentially poor take. Our T20 kit's growing on me slightly. Just slightly.
It's not as bad.
I can see.
We will do a power rankings before the World Cup. It's a must. South Africa's is pretty sharp.
Yeah. I've kept.
Yeah, like that gold just looks so much better compared to the canary. Like it's a stark difference. It's excuse the pun.
But it is almost like a statement color from Australia, isn't it? It's a bit peacocky, like we're just gonna wear bright yellow and dominate.
Yeah.
It looks slightly better as well because all their guys are tanned up to the gills. Like it wouldn't look good on a sort of wee pale side.
I mean, there's nothing that Stoin wouldn't look good in.
Yeah, it was mainly Stoin laughing after he had 2 wickets in that first over that got me sort of, this kit looks all right.
So the Asia Cup is underway, and honestly, this tournament makes no sense to me, other than it's just a reason to have India versus Pakistan 3 times in one tournament. There's 6 teams. We've got India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and a rogue Nepal, who lost by 200 runs against Pakistan.
Yeah, I like it.
That's neither here nor there. They're split up into 2 pools: India, Pakistan, and Nepal. So catch your Nepal. Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Afghanistan in the other. Afghanistan lost to Bangladesh, so probably catch your Afghanistan. The top 2 of each pool go into the top 4, and they don't play a semi-final. No. They play another round of round robins of that top 4, and then the top 2 play in the final. So there's a very good chance that you're going to see India v Pakistan 3 times.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
So someone said,
Thoughts
someone sat there and gone, how do we get India Pakistan the most amount of times? And come up with that. I'm surprised there's not like a 1 plays 2, loser plays 3 versus 4. So hopefully, India wins that and Pakistan loses, and you get a final as well. So
yeah.
I mean,
and then it finishes up with a 7-match series in the final.
Yeah, best of 7. It just feels like it's trying to get as much India Pakistan as we can. Good exposure for Nepal. Not sure Afghanistan's in Asia, but I've been proven wrong. Obviously by this tournament because they're at the Asia Cup. So yeah, good to get Pakistan India as much as we can.
My geography is so poor. I didn't even know.
Did you say Afghanistan's not part of Asia?
Isn't it
right beside Pakistan? Isn't it right beside Pakistan?
I'd say Afghanistan's in the Middle East, but
Yeah, can you fact check that?
I'm going to certainly plead the fifth on this one and stay out. I don't know where anything is, but I mean, I don't know if you're actually just anti this sort of structure of this tournament, because I think a great tournament heading into a World Cup to have, like, few big games there. Sort of feels like most teams could get a bit out of it. Like for Afghanistan, Nepal, I mean, for Nepal, it's just a chance to play bigger sides, really. But for Afghanistan, that's a good chance to really test where they're at. And then to have like finals and knockout games, I think it's good experience this close to a World Cup. So I think it's a pretty good tournament. That structure is a bit odd. But yeah, nice and close to a World Cup, playing ODIs. I think that's good stuff.
Yeah, I suppose Afghanistan's pretty close to Pakistan.
I mean, surely it's just knowing what's Asia and what's not.
Yeah, well,
they can't still be on the fence this far into the world, can it?
You learn something new every day. Afghanistan's part of Asia. Look at that.
Oh, okay. There you go. All right. Okay, so I haven't really watched any of the Asia Cup because it's not shown in New Zealand, which is pretty disappointing considering the eyeballs on this tournament.
YouTube, but we will highlights. Quality.
Oh, of course. Right. It's a good shout. We'll have to get amongst that. But the biggest game, of course, India versus Pakistan. Very intriguing matchup. This close out from the World Cup. We've got the World Cup favourites, India versus the current number 1 ranked team in Pakistan. Batting power versus pace, battery. It was Pakistan who fired the first shot with a hostile opening spell from Shaheen Afridi and Naseem Shah. They reduced India to 66 for 4. To India's credit, Ishan Kishan, and a bit of a coming of age innings, to be fair, combined with Hardik Pandya, they put on 140 odd for the 5th wicket to put India back on, looking like making 300. Pakistan quicks, they came back, finished the job, bowling India all out for 266 before the heavens opened up and Pakistan didn't get a chance to bat. Just a couple of takeaways here. The Pakistan seamers combined 10 for 129 off 28 overs, while the spinners none for 137 off 21. Okay, boys, what's your biggest takeaway from that game?
Yeah, I think that those Pakistan quicks are serious, aren't they? Gav's got a bit of work to do, but if he could just clip in the helmet cam of Shaheen bowling that bumper in the 100, I think it was. Did you guys see that during the week?
No.
Oh my! In terms of the ball, not being able to comprehend the ball moving that quickly, that I would be shitting myself trying to face up to that. It's unbelievable how quick the ball sort of comes at you off the deck in that footage. So, I've been all in on Shaheen Shah Afreedi for a while, and I think he is shaping up. If he stays healthy for this World Cup, he could lead Pakistan to something special here, I think.
That's very similar to like Dylan Blythe saying that France are one of the favourites for the World Cup.
I was going to say my biggest takeaway here is that could well be your World Cup final. And I don't know how the draw's sort of going to play
two
out.
favourites in the World Cup final.
Being possible. I mean, some. Well, hold on, we're not going to get a trolling last 10 minutes of this podcast, are we? I just think Pakistan's hugely impressive. I mean, if they can just bowl how they bowl and then just get enough out of their batting with their big dogs, with Babar and Rizwan getting runs, and they've got a bit more depth than that now, I think. So, yeah, I think Pakistan are going to be very hard to beat. And India's just got so many talented players. Like, as you say, they can be 50 for 4 or whatever, and they're still not out of it. And the way guys still score runs at pace, even when you're in trouble, there's no sort of let's get through 10 overs and feel this out for it. But it's like, let's still just counter attack and try and get us to a score. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's could well be a World Cup final, as I say.
Don't hate that. I actually don't hate that guess at all. They are moving. I did a wee quick fire like power rankings last week, and I think it's going to be hard to push ahead of England, but Pakistan really sort of firming their place as like a genuine, not just a semi-final threat, but like they could take this out. They could genuinely win this whole thing, which is very impressive stuff.
That would be one hell of a final.
Yeah,
that would
Pakistan,
have to be
India. That'd be the biggest game of cricket ever.
That would have to be the biggest game of cricket ever.
Yeah, there'd be 2 billion people watching that.
Fuck, there would be. Yeah, it'll be in that big stadium, won't it? That 100,000 stadium.
Yeah,
if you crammed in as well.
Oh, if you're on the roof,
high risk. Yeah. Any other takes
wouldn't need Bluetooth for
that. Thanks, Bluetooth. No. Anything else before we sign off, boys?
No. Sign up to the Patreon.
Just a lot of pretty handy cricket at the moment. It's just starting to feel like we're getting close to something big here with this World Cup.
Yeah, 100%. This is episode Nathan Lyon and Jason Roy 67 in the books. Thanks for listening or watching with us. If you enjoyed the show, please do like and subscribe. Leave a rating and review. Really helps the show to be discovered. And if you want to support the show, that's the easiest and the cheapest way to do it. If you want some extra content, check out the Patreon Power Play, where we drop an extra podcast a week every Friday at patreon.com/maximum cricket. Thanks to Lugsy and Jacko as always, and I'll catch you guys next week, same time, same place.
Yeah, just
catch you.